There we go.
Hello.
Hey, Daffy.
Hi, Daffy. So I wasn't able to find it. Daffy, actually, you opened an issue, which I also found like 2 weeks later. And
I think I know the one you mean. Pending reboot, grain or something.
right, pending reboot, perfect. And I was able to provoke it with test.version, so isn't that easy?
Well, yeah, I think it depends a lot on your environment. So, were you running in a particular kind of environment, test environment or something?
No, it was actually my productive Windows machine environment.
Right, okay.
So I think it depends whether the machine has a pending reboot. And all I had to do on a machine which had a pending reboot, actually, I did not check that. I just assume that the machine has a pending reboot. And as soon as I do something on it, then I have, that's this bug, 57628. Yeah, and I, in fact, I asked for a workaround. Do you know a workaround for the pending reboot? Because I remember somewhere else that you questioned whether some grain should be default on or default off. Shane?
I'm looking at it now. I thought I had put in a PR for this.
There are a number of PRs attached to it.
All right, I see one from Daffy. David.
Oh, David. It's David?
David is
David.
the preferred pronunciation.
David.
Oh, that's from a formula.
Yeah, I mean, my workaround was literally a Band-Aid type of thing. I think my problem was that it generates an error code on exit, and that was messing around with setting up our test environment. So I just put like an exit 0 at the end. So the problem was still occurring, but we kind of bypassed the error, which isn't.
I'm not sure if this is the fix. Let me put this in our chat window here. It was an issue I fixed with this.
Okay, let me see. And David, did you observe the pending reboot problem only in your test environment or also in your productive environment?
Only in my test environment.
Okay. So in your productive environment, you had machines with a pending reboot and it did not cause a problem.
Not that I am aware of, no. But I mean, it's only in certain situations you have a pending reboot, and that for me that would only be once a month, I believe. So it's possible I just haven't hit that. Because obviously, I think if you have a pending reboot and the machine is rebooted, the problem goes away. So
That's correct. That's what I assume too. Uh, so this PR would only work in a version merged. It does not offer a workaround. So it may or may not fix the problem in the main branch whenever that comes up. But I won't be able to distribute another version for the next, let's say, month. Is there a known workaround? So to disable grains in general, maybe.
Or disable this grain?
Yeah, in fact, what I do in my environment is I disable a number of grains which I deem unnecessary or from Unix only. So I have a rather nice long list of grains which I disable at boot or or as a configuration. And I can share that list with you. And so can I just add that to the list, or what are the conditions?
You want to share it with us to look at, or?
Yes, I will simply paste it. I should have prepared that too. Sorry. So what I see is that when I have some, I would like to have possibly by option disable grains, and what I stop talking and send it to you.
So you want to have an option to disable the pending reboot grain?
Yeah, maybe I have it already.
Okay.
I don't understand. So I think the documentation says that you can disable grains by configuring something like skip grain and give a number of grains. This is from memory, because I do not actually found what I'm doing, but are you aware that there is a skip grain property? Maybe it's undocumented. I think it is undocumented. So the question is, or I would, as in the Windows working group here, the Windows community could profit from having skip grains made an official property and know how to use it, because I started to use it. It seems so fine, and maybe we can suppress a pending reboot by this skip grains property.
I mean, I'm aware of a configuration option, grains blacklist. Is that what you're talking about?
Let me have a look.
But what I think happens with grains blacklist is it's not that it doesn't run the grain or process the grain, it just kind of leaves it out of the results.
Mm,
It's like a
possibly.
filter rather than. So if there is skip grain, yeah, that's news to me.
Okay. Now I'm going.
There's a command line that you can pass -- skip grains to a salt call command, so it won't load the grains.
Oh, really? That is interesting.
But it skips all the grains. It's not like a single one.
That would probably resolve my issue.
So all grains, then we should document that too, because I'm not aware of that, but I have.
So here's the docs for the blacklist, the grains blacklist.
Okay.
So you just pass it a list.
It's passed as a list. Okay.
However, you have to look at the code to see if it actually runs the grains code. I mean, ideally, it wouldn't even run the grain code, but it may actually populate the grain, but just not display it.
I have a feeling that this was discussed and that's what it does. Because I don't think there's any mechanism within Salt to not run the grain, as far as I know.
I have run a debug level. When I run test.version with debug level, it skips actually all populating, even populating the grains I specify. So I have the impression that it is actually doing the skip.
Good.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, now I'm getting an idea where to look at. Yes, now I'm going towards disable. It's called disable grains, and so in my config, in the minion config, I give this list of disable grains. I put that into the chat so we can much more easily discuss what this does. For example, napalm. For one reason or the other, I dislike what napalm is, maybe just historically. And for a very reason, I found that in XOS and SmartOS and ZFS, I can disable these grains. And from looking at the debug level test version, it does it, because otherwise I think it even says skipping disabled grains or something. So
Well, I see disable modules, returners, but I don't see a disable grains. You're telling me there's that works?
This is what I tell you.
And that works?
It works for me.
I mean, I'm looking through the code and not seeing it.
I found it in a discussion, in a GitHub discussion on some topic, which I probably cannot find again.
Okay, well, I can see some reference to it. Pull request 42567. 6, 7. 42567. 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4, 2, 5, 6, 7. 4,
Yeah, it was. I think I never went into the code, but I was happy enough that seeing the effect on the command line when I said salt call log level debug, it was getting something back. I did not notice any performance difference, unfortunately, but it could. Well, we could use, so depending on how disable grains actually works, I never went that far, we could use it also for the reboot, pending reboot problem.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hi, Chad.
Hey, Chad.
Morning, Shane. Hi, Marcus.
Hi, Shane. Oh, that's even more cool. So I need to, now I need to share my video also. I'm not as cool as you, though.
What are you talking about? You got the hair, man.
Yeah. What? You got the hair. Why is that? Okay. I tried to answer your poll for module run as good as I could in 2 minutes. Oh, and maybe we are discussing what disable grains does. I will put that again into the chat because you missed that out. So there is a maybe undocumented feature called disable grains, and I make use of that. So that why not make it more documented and understand how it works, and maybe we can have the pending reboot problem go away for Windows.
I wonder if we need to document this. That's what I think needs to happen.
But
The disable grains. I mean, it's there. I could see what it's like doing a wild card. Anything that starts with disable underscore, it will work.
So we could also disable the pending reboot grain just by configuration.
Yeah, according to
Good.
this.
I'm very short in time with Salt currently because there has been a huge blow back on Salt in this company, and guess what? On performance. This is not the real reason, but so in principle the profiling is a good idea, but came a little bit too late for us. So it was using one core of 4 for 10 seconds was too much for a senior manager, while he looks at the virus scanner for hours, but 10 seconds is too much. So in principle, I would encourage us to do performance profiling again, only that I will miss out much time. I will have very restricted hours because yeah, unfortunately.
You won't be able to look at it with us.
Yeah, I'm very restricted on time. also on this date, I need to go out of the working group 10 minutes earlier. So if we keep that, and we cannot move it for 15 minutes before, because I think this is even worse for you. So for me, it's late, but for you, it's early in the day.
It's fine for me. I'm good with meeting earlier.
Okay.
9:50. You want to do 9 or 9:15 or what? Or let's see, it's 9:50. I don't know what time it is for you. It's 9:30 for me. We could move it up a half an hour if you wanted to.
Yes, that would be nice. If everybody is okay with that, then I won't leave. Then I can catch my train.
Okay. Let me send a email to our working group lady.
Okay, then half an hour earlier, then we can stay with the day. And I mean, we are a very elite group here, so we can discuss that. So David, can you imagine to try to disable grains and see whether that has an influence on your test environment, and then it would also have an influence on the productive environment? Because,
Yes, I can try that.
for example, Linux distribution on a Windows box is simply, maybe you can have it even disabled by default or something on Windows. This is another thing I would like to ask. What I see is that all these grains work on Windows, and it's good that there is a configuration, but it should also be used to never ever try it on Windows. As far as I see.
So this is an attempt to speed up the salt process.
This was my initial attempt. Yes, it does not really speed up the salt minion, unfortunately. And I have not found time to do what you asked me to do on Slack, unfortunately. So I will even not comment anymore on the Unicode problem, because I will focus on performance. So whether Unicode works or not, I will just live with it.
So I'm 90% sure that the slowness issues are a problem with the loader. And I actually found the exact line that is causing this. Let me see if I can find that line.
Profiling points to the loader. The problem is what is the loader? So if it's no help that profiling points me to loader, now I'm all ears. What is the loader? It's probably
the loader,
something which loads.
Right. It goes. So the loader allows you to put modules in the modules directory, states in the states directory, grains files in the grain directory. And instead of having to reference those with an import, the loader will go through and put those in the Dunder salt namespace. It will load all the grains without you having to do like a manual import this file. The loader will go through and do that for you.
Okay. So it's like an implicit import. Implicit import.
It's what makes salt pluggable. What makes it so you can add these plugins without having to go in and manually point, hey, this is a new plugin, import salt.modules.mynewmodule.
Okay.
Somewhere. So the loader will go through and just list everything in that directory and bring it into the namespace.
Okay. Except when we disable it we can disable modules and disable grain, and the loader should respect that.
Right.
One
and
interesting behavior with the loader too is if you import something that's in the Z range, it will go alphabetically all the way down to it. So like it will import everything until it finds the name or passes the name.
Uh-huh.
So the problem with the loader is specific to Windows. Okay. The slowness.
Uh-huh.
So the way multiprocessing works on a Linux box is when it forks a new process, it just makes a copy of the environment and the new process gets the copy. It's very fast. In Windows, process forking doesn't work that way.
Yes.
And the loader has to recreate all of the namespaced objects. It has to go through and reload everything. And that's why it's slower on Windows. And it seems like the more modules we add, the slower it gets as well.
Yes.
So there may be something to be said for going through and cleaning out all the Linux modules. I thought we were doing some of that anyways, but maybe getting a little more
Well,
precise.
you do it in a way that is kind of doesn't seems like a very brute force in your for the installer deletes a number of directories. This is all I know of.
Well, it deletes some directories that Python puts in there that we don't need, like the testing directory, but then it does go through and delete some actual modules as well. There's a whole
Yes.
list.
But I think this is the only place where Unix module get removed for Windows. So in a list you have, it's simply deleting, and it's not very, it's not inside the, it's not inside the,
In the code.
right.
So you're thinking it would be better to use the blacklist instead of deleting those files, and then it wouldn't matter. Because
Well,
when you're working off the code, it loads everything, but when you're working off the installer, those files aren't there.
Aren't there? I don't know. I like the idea that the files aren't there. Or two, except that we need to go further, or it has not yet a sufficient impact. So for me, either way is fine. I wouldn't comment on how the method looks, or it's just not. It's not fast enough. That's the only thing which troubles me. And I'm not aware of. Let me have a look at the blacklist. Grains blacklist. I haven't looked into that.
So another question is, I know Salt has a threading way, although most people don't use it, and I think it's broken on Windows, right, Shane?
Threading, Windows used to use threading, and it was actually much faster. That's just turning multiprocessing off. But it broke the Salt scheduler, the job scheduler. There's some things that didn't quite work right when we were running under threading on Windows. And we went away from it and went to multiprocessing and made that the default to make Salt behave correctly.
Because going off of a single process, it will overall have a slower startup, but since it's not utilizing 4 cores or how many cores it decides to utilize, the overall performance hit on Marcus's machines will actually be lower. It'll just be spread out, which I don't know if that's an option that Marcus might want.
No problem. If they can take minutes to start up, that's fine with me. But I was not. Can you repeat your question, maybe?
Yeah. So rather than firing up like 4 multiprocessing cores, we disable multiprocessing. I know that doesn't work. I'm just talking hypothetically, right? Where instead of firing up another process, we just fire up a new thread, right? Which is therefore sharing the same core and doesn't utilize any extra CPU power, really, right? So you're maxed out at a certain percentage of that machine. So like one process on my machine only takes up 20% and nothing more, nothing less.
I cannot. I'm not able to answer whether threading or processes would how they would influence. Unfortunately, I cannot guess what I would like. I'm not too much into Python and processes or forking.
Are you understanding what I'm thinking, or am I just talking?
Yeah, I'm trying to jump to trying to find where the exact line that's I'm searching for something. No, when Windows was doing multiprocessing faults, It was faster than Linux. I mean, you did test.ping and Windows boxes would always return first. It was very fast. They may have fixed the issues with the scheduler now. Maybe that would be the fix, is to do multiprocessing off and fix the issues with the scheduler, if that's doable. I don't know. I mean, that's another approach we could take for Windows.
Chad, when I try to repeat your question, or your proposal has to do with the difference of creating a thread or a process. Can you demonstrate that? Or
Yeah, so I currently don't have my machine with me. I actually had class, but it got canceled, so I just decided to join this meeting. I apologize for that. The difference between a process and a thread is a thread shares memory with what it gets forked off of, right? And it's sharing the same processing time as well. So like when you do processing, right, multiprocessing, it'll get another core of the computer, right? It'll have to copy the memory over and then it'll start running, right? But both of the processes can run at the same time, taking up more power, right?
Yeah.
A thread, you don't have to copy the memory, and it also limits the power that your program will have, right? It's stuck with one core and it's switching off on its jobs really quickly, so you don't notice. And therefore, even if the startup is slower, rather than your machine saying, oh no, we're taking up like 40% of your computer power, right? It might be like 5% or 10% for like a little bit.
Okay, so in principle, multi-thread should have lower impact on the hardware. Is that correct?
Yeah, it will have lower impact on the hardware compared to doing multiprocessing. And what Shane's saying is, since we don't have to copy everything over to the new process, it should hopefully be faster.
Right. And then I think, Shane, that Windows isn't able to fork as Unix does. I doubt that this makes a big difference in performance, but this is a common understanding. I see it all over again. The argument comes up again that Unix has fork, and therefore threading is very fast and very efficient, and Windows has not. So multi-threading, which Chad says is lower impact, it doesn't really work on Windows. So it was disabled. And this is still the current situation. Multi-threading is currently set off in Salt. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. No, right. There is no fork. Well, the fork doesn't work the same way in Windows.
Right.
Threading works. You can still start threads and things, but
by configuration?
Yeah, just so go into your minion config and turn multiprocessing to false, and it should start. I mean, that's
multiprocessing. Okay.
Yeah, multiprocessing defaults, and then I haven't done it in a while, so it may or may not start. I don't know. we leave it by true, and we say it's not supported.
Multiprocessing. Okay.
Yeah.
So multiprocessing true means we never try to use this. Don't even try using a thread. Go right away into a multiprocess. That's what multiprocessing true means.
Yes.
So Python will still use threads, but for heavier task and Salt, it will use a process instead of a thread.
Instead of a thread.
So every time you launch like test.ping or any module, it launches a new process, copies the environment, and runs it. So that's why you see two. So then when you turn it to false, it'll just launch it, run those on a new thread.
On a new thread. So I won't see a second python.exe, but a single python.exe doing more stuff. I will try that. That sounds good into my ears. And if that process would be called Salt Minion, you would make me really happy in another lifetime or another world. But I think that I understand what multiprocessing true could do from false. I will try that. And it should even be faster, only that you had a reason to set multi-processing true because it broke the loader, essentially. So,
Yeah, the jobs cache or something.
I never used the job cache. In fact, I have disabled it on the Salt Master already.
The job scheduler then.
I don't use the job scheduler too.
But Salt does. Salt does schedule jobs. When it's given jobs, it schedules them
I see. Well, then
underneath even.
I will try. If you have this, it's still an official option. So multiprocessing false cannot be too bad because otherwise you would need to write never set default multiprocessing false on Windows.
So that line I just select
Yes.
is the actual line that sits there for 10 seconds. and
Are you
waits.
showing something somewhere?
I just sent it in the chat.
No, you don't.
I
No, you
didn't.
didn't.
Oh,
No.
I sent it to. Looks like I sent it to Chad privately.
You sent it to me
Sent it.
privately.
Didn't mean to do
You-
that. Sorry, everybody.
You two are a bunch of people. No, sorry. Just joking.
It does that little drop down. For some reason, it was set. with Chad. I
You
don't
have
know why.
secrets, you two. I see.
How else are we supposed to gossip about you, Marcus?
Sorry, I didn't get that joke. Gossip means I shouldn't do that. So probably.
Gossip is talking about somebody behind their back without them knowing.
Yes, this is what you're doing. So, that's now you have the loader, and let's have a look at line 8 to 8. What does this line tells me?
Okay, so what's really weird about this is funcs is defined on 824, so it loads everything, everything in, and then it does this for key and funcs,
Yeah.
and that for some reason that makes it generate a giant dictionary so that it can iterate through it, and that single line like takes 10 seconds to do.
How did you find out?
I just started going through this, putting time statements everywhere.
Oh,
And this, I put a time statement before that line and a time statement after that line, and it takes 10 seconds or 15.
okay. So in principle, that's fantastic that you found that out. And so the question is, what is happening? But also the question arises in my head, why didn't the profiling showed us right away to line 8 to 8, or so the profiling isn't working so great because we needed you to point us, and this should have been the result of the profiling. So what is this line doing actually, and do we need it? And the giant dictionary of grains again.
Yeah, so Wayne answered this for me. He said, so the grains funcs iter, he says, the dunder iter is what is clogging your system. He says, yeah, that's the lazy loader. He says, that's interesting though, because there isn't an iter method. There isn't iter files though. And then there's a line, let me see if I can find that. Okay, this is the problem. Let me find this line in the code.
Funcs is probably a list of functions. Oh, and can we, by the way, can we run this somehow and debug actually a minion? And if not, why can't we debug a minion?
Okay, so this is in the same file.
Yes, 1217. And Chad, can you imagine a world where we can debug step by step a salt minion And what do we have to do for that?
I can imagine it. I just don't have enough time to be assigned to do something like that.
Why it's so
Um,
difficult?
Well, no, just to get something fully integrated into salt where we make sure that it is A, growable, right? And B, that it's there on startup and everything. I don't know why it would be so difficult. It just, right now with all our processes that we fire off, right? When we have a profiler like what you have, right? It doesn't get carried over to a new process. So we don't see those performance slowdowns on the other processes. Now, when threading is equal to true, the profiling should be a lot more easier where you'll be able to see those slowdowns.
I mean,
But
you mean if multi-processes is false, probably?
yeah, if threading is true or multi-processing is false, they're inverse. It can
Okay.
be switched.
Good. Then that's yet another reason to put it on false multiprocessing, because maybe then even profiling shows us more relevant data. Okay, sorry, Shane, I stole time from you. Line 1217 is iterating over keys. What does that mean? Lazy loader.
Yeah, so if you go back to line 8, what was it, 828,
8 to
the other one
8,
we were
yeah.
looking at? We're iterating over those keys, right?
Uh-huh.
It loads the grain funcs into funcs and then it iterates over them.
Okay.
And then the back at 1217, they put a warning here saying iterating over the keys will cause all modules to be loaded. So because it does it in a lazy fashion,
Yes.
meaning it doesn't try to load it, actually load it until you access it. So when you're iterating over the keys, you're accessing every single function and it's going through and loading all those functions into the dictionary.
But if it loads the function just once, I'm happy with it. If it does it all over again, I'm not so happy.
With multiprocessing, it does it all over again.
Oh, yes, now I start to understand the problem. Because the process has nothing before it, it's the first process ever. Even if it has been there 2 seconds ago, it was another process.
Yes.
Stupid. Now I understand.
Well, it's the
Question.
it's the Windows issue. This is only on Windows. It doesn't happen on Linux this way.
Well, is there multiprocessing true on Windows, on Unix?
Yes.
On Unix, yes. But then the processes have no predecessor. They should have the same problem also on Unix.
Well, it copies the loader object gets copied over to the new process.
Or to the new process. Oh.
Whereas in Windows, it has to regenerate the loader object with all of the modules available to it.
I see that makes it a big difference. Though I wonder, why does a Unix process doesn't have to recreate? Well, okay, I will take it for granted.
Right. We're starting to get into computer science-y stuff.
Yeah. No, and in fact, I skipped that. But then I understand why I will give that a try. I will set multiprocessing to false and see if all my use cases go through. There is, Jesus, the line 1262 has something about thread safety. It's getting a little bit computer science here.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with the loader, and I'm kind of just giving you how it's been explained to me.
Yeah. David, are you still on this?
I'm listening.
Oh yeah. What is your? Are you using both Unix and Windows, or are you too like me, Windows only?
No, I use both.
You use both. Well, that's good, because you should see you should have better performance. You can testify better performance on Unix then.
Yeah, well, it's clear that with my Windows minions, I have to put the timeout when I'm running a salt command at like 30 seconds. That's here, yes. Oh, and whereas with Linux, I leave it at a default of 5 or 10 seconds.
I see.
Yeah, so
Stra-
Salt was
strange-
written for Linux.
Right.
And after it had all been designed and built, then they made it work on Windows. So
Right.
it wasn't designed with Windows in mind.
Right. Strangely enough, I never have to use a timeout. So I have like 20,000 Windows minion out there, and I can query them, and they come back if everything works fine within like 10 milliseconds, 5 of them. The
I
problem
mean, I don't know your situation if that's in a data center or something.
It's
but
not.
actually, no, my minions are over the internet.
sorry?
My minions are reached over the internet.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
minions on the WAN, wide area network. So it's not the
Okay.
internet. I would be too scared to put my Saltmaster on the internet. But it's on wide area network, and my lines are bad. So I'm across Germany,
well,
and I still get milliseconds response from my minions, Windows minions across a wide area network. So like hundreds of kilometers, dozens of hops, doesn't mind. If it works, it works.
okay, maybe that's interesting to know. Maybe it's you have better hardware than me.
I doubt that. But what I do is I have put a zero MQ filtering true, which does server-side filtering for the zero MQ protocol. Maybe that's a difference.
I've heard of it.
This was network-wise necessary because I have so many minions. If I do client-side filtering, it overwhelmed the network just by the pure amount of zero MQ traffic. I just simply didn't thought about performance, there was a network performance necessity for me. Maybe it has even a positive influence on response time, but my response time is very, very little or little. Yep.
Okay. Well, that's new to me to hear that.
Well, so what I'm facing is not a slow response. What I see and what I have to work on is that the process takes too much CPU time.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, for test version, the CPU time, if I run it locally, it should bypass all encryption, or maybe encryption still works, and encryption could take some time. So I understand that encrypting also from the local hosts, but it shouldn't be 20% CPU for like 10 seconds. This is not encryption problem, because encryption is probably done not in Python, but in a more faster language.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Shane is right that the loader could be consuming, building nonsense again and again and again. So I take from that the building can be excluded by having multiprocesses like false, equals false. Thank you, Shane. I will try that.
It's not covered under any warranty.
No, unfortunate. I would have
underneath
asked for your
Apache
Visa
anyways.
card number now. Sorry?
Oh, I was just saying Salt's underneath Apache too anyways, so there is no warranty.
Right. Multiprocess is false. I will have it go maybe next week.
Can I bring up some topic?
Definitely.
Just going back to the Win repo, which we looked at last time.
Never used it, so I'm all
No?
ears. No.
Oh, okay. Well,
Go ahead.
what we introduced last time was we made some changes to the testing, and I put in a pull request to use pre-commit, which is a GitHub hook manager, so that you can actually run the test process on your local machine.
Okay.
And well, that was fine as far as it went. I think we came up to the kind of the issue that testing still doesn't work on Windows, I believe, which given that given that obviously WinRepo is all about Windows, it should probably work. We should probably get it to work on
I agree.
Windows, because I work on a Mac day to day, and so that's what drove me. So yeah, there are some improvements to be made with that pre-commit setup.
So pre-commit, I don't use it, means that before I can commit, a number of tests are executed.
That's right, yes.
Sounds good to me. So before you even commit something which has a but if the test runs for 5 minutes and I need to wait for 5 minutes before I can see whether my commit went through.
Well, yeah, that's the good thing about pre-commit is that it only tests the files that you change. So, yes, if the test, or rather, yeah, the whole point is that the test should run as quickly as possible. And yeah, certainly in my usage so far, the test will run in maybe 10 seconds at the most, really.
Even if it would be 5 minutes, I think that's worth the time before committing something stupid and get the bad answer as soon as possible.
Yeah, you're right, but it doesn't have to take 5 or 10 minutes, certainly. So where am I going with this? Yeah, so it needs a little bit of work to get it working on Windows. I guess what I was going to bring up was, yeah, the last time we discussed briefly that the purpose of the tests currently is to check for bad URLs, URLs that don't exist anymore. And so that's checked at the moment on a weekly basis. And so should we make some kind of concerted effort to clean up these bad URLs, these bad packages?
Oh, so this is where the WinRepo comes in. So the WinRepo contains URLs.
Yeah, well, it contains, it's like a package management for Windows built into Salt. And well, yeah, I use it. I think many people use it on a day-to-day basis, but obviously it needs, well, fairly constant maintenance to keep it up to date. Because yeah, URLs can change, they can die, those versions can disappear off the internet. So yeah, I guess my point is, should we as a group do something about this?
Yeah, I think we made some progress on this. We had some to-do items. See, you were going to put some scheduled tests in there, and I think I saw that. That's up here under actions, right?
That's right, yeah.
These are the scheduled tests. tasks and we can see that. Are these failures
don't
or
know.
is this a
I-
failure with the run itself?
I don't know if it's just me, but your screen is frozen.
Oh, really? Crap.
Yeah, I don't know if it's only me.
Oh yeah, that's true. Now I see David just white on black and Shane Lee quit script. Now I see merge pull request 1720.
Okay, so this was a schedule though. This ran on a schedule.
Yes, this would. I think it runs on a Saturday.
And
So
pre-commit failed. Was this a failure with one of the URLs?
Well, you have to do a search then through the whole log. Yeah. If you search logs for problem here. I mean, I think yeah, these are failures. Because I know that there are failures there. So yes.
Okay, so how
But
do
we
you
are,
find the
obviously we
one?
are dealing with around 300 odd packages.
Right.
So there's two types of failures. There's an actual real failure whereby the URL has been checked and it no longer exists or whatever. But there's a different type of failure which I've become aware of, that the way the testing works, the package files, the SLS files, are not processed within Salt. They're processed by a kind of a bespoke Python test file. And so some of the failures are, I would say, false positives, in that this bespoke test program can't actually process the SLS files properly. So I've got some ideas about that.
All right, so this is a failure here. Looks like, oh, there's 100 of them. So there's 50 failures. Okay, these are all the failures you're talking about.
Yes, that's right.
So what does these 404 errors means? The URL no longer exists.
Yeah, if I click on this, it gives me a
Yeah,
404.
404. Yeah, as in a file used to be there, but it's no longer there.
But where does this Veyon, how comes that this Veyon URL is is that URL part of the Win repo in Salt?
Yeah, well, WinRepo is just a list or a
So it's like a bunch
repository
of, it's like a bunch of
SLS.
states. Sorry, I keep talking over. It's a bunch of states, basically. You define, here's a pretty simple one.
Uh-huh.
So this tells Salt how to install this Veyon piece of software. So I can do a package.install Veyon, and then the installer knows to go out here to GitHub and download it from here, install it using these flags, and some other stuff. And then when it goes to uninstall it, this is the uninstall. So it's a way to manage software on a Windows machine.
Okay,
In a similar way you would on a Linux box, like an apt, if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. But
Let's-
when you assemble the URL, it doesn't point to a living version.
Well, what's probably happened is this project, they've probably moved these somewhere else. They've changed where they're storing their files.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's also 2 years old.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. This needs constant maintenance, really.
Well, I have an idea. If we or you showed us a log file containing 404 errors. Just so what is this script which stumbles upon the 404 problem? And Shane just
Well,
showed us.
it's in It's in the repository. It's under the .travis directory.
Okay, so Travis is not familiar. I'm not familiar with Travis, but it,
Okay, it's a CI
yeah,
system.
good. So the CI system is aware of a 404 problem, and it takes no consequences currently.
No, it just reports them.
Right. I have a proposition to make. Why don't we just, can't Travis remove any SLS which contains a 404 problem?
You could, but we need to just fix them is what.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost like the nuclear option. Whereas, yeah, if the file is just moved somewhere else, then yeah, it's just a case of finding out where and changing the URLs or correcting them or removing old versions that are no longer distributed, that kind of thing.
But I think I'm in no position to find a Vayon version which is fitting. So if the Vayon people care to have a support by Salt, then they should put it again back into, they correct it. But so I think it's not from the Salt side guessing a new URL, but for the Vayon people to plug in the Salt support.
So that's the thing, Marcus, is Vayon doesn't maintain this.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Somebody- Somebody like you or me needed Vayon installed on their network. So they created this software definition so that I could package.install Vayon on my minions.
Yeah, still that makes you a maintainer for the Vayon project.
Well, kind of, yeah. So anybody who wants Vayon, then they would fix that state and make it work for them.
Right.
But I mean, nobody's open an issue about it. So
So can we have all these SLS files have like authors, and this makes the natural maintainer is the person who committed that SLS file, so he could get a message, a notification about your SLS file for Vayon currently is not pointing to anywhere. Please fix, or it will be removed.
yeah, you could contact this guy.
Yep. So
Say,
I
hey,
mean, please, and this could be done by Travis. And thank you for having contributed the Vayon SLS. It currently is in no good shape. You have like, I mean, a month to fix, or we will consider it gone. Like this person is pretty much gone. And I think the quality.
It's an interesting approach.
I have been frustrated by not working modules. I think the frustration of something not working is bigger than from something not present. This is what I see.
Yeah, this,
I don't see any contact information for this guy. I mean,
yeah, you can't, as far as I know, you can't just contact.
But you can
somebody
have
on GitHub.
I guess
you can have
you could send him a GitHub message, but
exactly. But in fact, can Travis probably we can make
What?
Travis.
I wasn't aware that the GitHub messages existed.
yeah, I think you can.
I mean, you can ping somebody.
Yeah,
Well, the GitHub message would be to have an issue and have it at DLREG. And if he cares to respond to his GitHub messages, then we're lucky. If not, we're just out of luck. And I think it is for me. It's no good that there are 3,000 not working SLS states it should be a small and a working set of states, and otherwise put into an archive for revision by somebody who cares looking into the archive. But it should not be shipped.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting perspective.
Well, thank you. Really, it just makes me aggressive if something if it's not working. So the point of having it checked before commit should also be applied to something in the past. So the commit should be repeated. Somebody who was committing it like 2 years ago, or maybe just even better a month ago, or even better 10 minutes ago, should be notified. Oh, your commit no longer works.
Mm-hmm.
And we could utilize in fact, the only thing I can think of contacting somebody from GitHub is using the add person. But in fact, what happened to my note, my request for the workaround did not reach you, Shane. So somehow you did not look into your mail, or when we look into
Wow.
the pending reboot problem, I used that at Twangboy, and probably you didn't notice. Is that assumption? Is that a valid assumption, Shane?
Yes. Yeah, there's no guarantee they're going to get that message.
Yeah, I mean, the more notifications somebody has, the more likely it is. Well, yeah, they fall by the wayside, so to speak.
I understand. But I think that we have, that's unfortunate, because I know of no other notification. And in fact, we should agree that, I don't know, I'm rather not I think the best notification we have is GitHub, not Slack. Slack is nice for having a conversation, but it's not for notification. Or GitHub is the best notification we have. I can repeat.
Okay, well, I mean, another idea that came up in the last meeting was some kind of code jam type of thing, where we would spend, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours or something as a group going through these and fixing them, or getting rid of them.
I like the word jam, but I'm afraid I would, for Veillon, I would say delete in any case. So then I would be the nuclear option always.
Well, I mean, Veillon obviously is only one example.
Yes,
out
but
of many.
I don't use the repository. So for me, it's all either maintained or not. And so the not maintained parts of something which I don't use have very little attention from my side.
Yeah, well, I mean, nobody's asking you personally to do this. I'm trying to get some movement, I suppose. What are we going to do about this?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm sounding harsh. I don't want to. This is. I hadn't lunch, so I'm sounding more nervous than I am. I think it's fair to say, or it's fair what you ask for. But then, who would that Jemmy group be?
Well, people do use the WinRepo. I mean, there are people that contribute.
Yeah.
Obviously, they are not here in this group, in the working group, but
Right.
So they could be contacted.
They generally care about the software they're working with.
They're working on, right.
It's usually stuff like Firefox. And I mean, like we have some pull requests right now for updates Firefox, WinLogBeat, LibreOffice.
Oh, I see.
People are submitting pull requests, and I need to sit on this. I haven't looked at it in a while, apparently.
I see.
Would it be possible, Shane, to merge regularly in this repo?
Yeah, I need to. Yeah, this is too long. This has been almost a month.
Yeah. I would even argue that it's too complicated to have it gone through the code review. Like, it should be on a separate track. Like, this is just version numbers. They shouldn't be taken as, let's say, serious. This is just like metadata changing, not code changing. So you have to throw it through a code review. Maybe there should be an improved, if it's just numbers, then it's accepted kind of automation.
So this one I'll have to look at a little more. He made some pretty big changes in here. So some of them are more than just changing the version numbers.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of agree with what you're saying there, Marcus. I mean, yeah, we could certainly automate a lot of this more, but it's just we haven't got there. We haven't got that far.
Yeah, I think somebody still needs to come in and look at it.
Well, as you see here, these things are, and he changed again. Like in this case, he changed the URL. It's no longer Notepad Plus, which I don't use, by the way. But okay, that's a joke. GitHub.com. So what's the difference? GitHub.com. Oh, yes, he just moved from Notepad Plus org into GitHub.com directly. But still, I would argue, have a kind of like a minimal, simple thing. All the number versions accepted. URL version, leave it to the CI to come up that there is already changing for a check whether that exists. This is a trivial change. Could we not have? Well, in fact, then what you say, David, is that there is nothing like accepting trivial changes inside here.
No,
He also got rid of a bunch of. He also got rid of a bunch of old versions here.
Yeah.
Which is problematic if somebody needs to uninstall an old version. Then that definition is no longer there. So this one he needs to.
Oh, I see. You need the version in order to uninstall.
You need the old versions. Yeah. Otherwise, Salt doesn't know how to uninstall version 754. He's removed that one out of the list.
Yeah, probably because those versions no longer exist as a downloadable executable.
But this.
Yeah. So what you do in that case, if they're gone, then you just have an uninstall only entry for those items. Get rid of the installer entry.
But does this uninstall can you make a difference between installing and uninstalling? Old versions should always be installed, no matter how old they are, without naming them explicitly. But it doesn't exist. So you need that's a kind of.
Well, if I do a package.remove NPP and I have installed version 755, then the Salt Minion comes in here and looks at this definition. It looks for the uninstaller and the uninstall flags, and it runs those. And if he's removed those from these lists, it's not going to know how to uninstall the software.
That's unfortunate, but I think this is a flaw in how this repository works.
There's a lot of argument along that too. You could just grab the registry key that defines that and run that. There's a lot of ways we could do it. But
Yeah,
right
the
now, how it's
registry
written,
key won't be a silent uninstall though.
sometimes
In fact, not
sometimes it
always.
is.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Sometimes.
You don't know what version what kind of installer they used.
All right. So currently, this is how the salt repo works. You need the precise version in order to uninstall. That's the reason why you cannot take away the old version. But this brings up a problem. If version 7 point very old, 7 point, what's the oldest version here? 5, I think. If 7.5 contains, or 7.4 contains a major, totally unacceptable security risk, you would like to enable the installation of that.
Right. And so you can do some fancy Jinja in here and just say if the version is less than 7.6, then only provide an uninstaller, do not provide an installer.
How would you do that?
With some Jinja.
Some ginger.
Jinja, some of this this stuff.
Yes, I see. But maybe then the person who is making that commit is not knowing about this. Is it a well documented? Please have a look at how to remove, how to set a minimal version in and.
No, there's basically no documentation.
There's one file in the salt docs that talks about this.
Because I think the intention of Akkos Comp was to remove old versions, and he's now not getting the best help from our side.
Right. Well, it should have broke these up into separate pull requests. Is what he should have done. Because the rest of these are all fine. I'd do that one. I'd do this one. I'd do this one and this one, but I won't do this one.
In fact, yes, because now I understand. The problem is, I think he does not understand. So we could add that to, this is again maybe a documentation. If the Windows repo is supporting a minimal install version, yeah. And David, now I understand this needs, this cannot be handled by a script, so we have to look at it. But why don't we do it here in the Windows repo group? Like the last 15 minutes, we do the jam, the Win repo jam.
Yeah, we could. Well, the jam was just to fix the broken URLs. I think that was the.
Yeah, the jam would be look into the pull requests. Maybe that's, and so I get it better. I had no knowledge at all of Win repo before.
What do you use to deploy software then, Marcus?
Nothing at all. I don't use Salt to deploy software. I use it to operate a peer-to-peer system, which will be removed soon, by the way. So I'm actually looking into the use case of very small use cases currently.
Okay, but then you must. What is the other system that you use to deploy software? Just out of interest.
Currently, Altiris, Symantec Altiris, and it will be replaced by the mighty Microsoft
System Center or something.
System Center monstrosity, which has changed also its name currently.
SCCM.
SCCM no longer is SCCM, but everybody calls it SCCM because that's the only name who everybody knows. It's Config Manager, I think, simply. But so Salt is pretty much going out of business soon, but I will try to hang around as much as I can and to support and to, I don't know, I think MSI still is a useful format. So I won't disappear, just I have to digest hits from my company.
Oh,
But-
so you're saying you guys aren't using, you're gonna stop using salt?
Pretty much, yes. I don't know. This is the current discussion, but it's still it will still maintain a niche for something like issuing commands, because SCCM or at least no, it's I will tell you in a month.
Okay.
But most people use it for installing software. I'm aware of that, but I don't.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. We had the problem that Altiris was and still is very bad at distributing large files. So we have outmaneuvered, and we're able to have a lot of success with a BitTorrent-based peer-to-peer system. But now this becomes obsolete soon. And so yeah, maybe another use case or not. We just distributed large files, and BitTorrent is a hell of a system. So we are distributing currently like 20 gigabytes, and it works very fine. And we just operate the BitTorrent clients via Salt. And we leave installation then if the files are distributed again to Altiris, which is kind of a shame. But that's what we do. So all the glory go to Altiris. We just help Altiris to do its job.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's quite a system you've worked up.
Yeah, but in fact, so if you have looked into, maybe David, you have heard of a system. It's an American company called what's its name? Second, getting. Adaptiva, is that a name you have heard of before? Maybe you have, Shane, too.
Adaptiva?
Adaptiva is a hack of system using peer-to-peer. So this is what is being distributed.
No, I haven't heard of it before.
I don't know whether that's keeping all its promises, but it's a supported product. So I'm working for DHL. DHL was funny enough to relay its distribution in an in-house solution, but it's not typical to do so. So we are being replaced with that here.
So, okay, so this is going to install your antivirus and put apps on the machines and get them set up for access to your network. Set up VPNs.
Yeah, it's kind of so the guy who invented Adaptiva was formerly a Microsoft employee responsible for part of the SCCM, and he made the SCCM pluggable, and in order to build this company and make it a part of SCCM. So this will distribute your content via peer-to-peer, but again, it's only distribution. All the installation is then done by SCCM.
This plugs into SCCM.
Yep.
Microsoft Configuration Manager. That's what it's called now.
Yes. And all the sheets are very, very exciting. And I think I've never seen I think it must be quite costly. I have no idea. But I cannot compete with that. The fact is, 4 years ago, it didn't exist. So I had my time.
Right. Is there still a place for you with the company, dude?
Oh no, of course, no. There is
Okay.
no actually. No. This is in Germany. It's much different. If you are hired by it's actually the postal office. So we are here. We must stay until we die. So we cannot leave. That's. We are constrained into bounds of work. That's all the terror you can imagine. No problem. I tomorrow I will know more next month. But this is one of the Yeah, this is why I don't install. I leave it to currently Alterius, and in the future it will be the config manager. But anyhow, I will support Salt. I find it much more. I deem it very powerful and worthwhile doing open source software. Only I have time constraints. So, do we need to close this session anyhow?
Yeah, it's up to you, bro. Whenever you want to. We covered everything we wanted to cover.
So, David, what do you think of contacting from the Travis? Could there be...
Well, well, the first thing is we have to know who to contact. Do we contact the person who first contributed that file, or do we need a new kind of parameter in the SLS file for a contact address or something like that? I mean, it would need a bit of work to get to that point.
I think how the APT works is that there is a maintainer. So even for the SLS, I think it's reasonable to say, please fill in your contact details here. Each and every APT has a maintainer,
you
hasn't
are
it?
right. Yeah, you are right.
You're saying
Shane,
to have
what-
like a forum where somebody puts their contact information at the top as the maintainer, and they would be responsible for fixing the broken links.
Right, it's certainly an idea. There is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with in GitHub as well, code owners file.
Oh, really? And you can
Yeah.
specify individual files and
You can,
the
yeah. I mean,
owners?
there's a pattern to it, like a regex type of thing, but I mean, it's one option.
I think in PyPy also there's a maintainer. So it's a rather common concept of having a maintainer.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
And it's not that we're asking too much work. It's just it would stream. In fact, no. In fact, you said we need to contact somebody, so that this would fulfill a need. So these are my 5 cents. I'm not in a position to decide, but these are just my thoughts about.
well, this only affects who can review the files though too, right? Is that what the code owners?
Well, it has different purposes. I think review, but also
Well, it probably when you do a pull request,
yeah. If
it
you
probably
are
adds them
acting-
to the
Yeah,
reviewers
that's right.
list.
Yeah, but I mean, yes, yeah, you're right. That's the main usage of it. But it could also act as a kind of central point to make, record this information of who we consider to be the owner of that file.
Yeah, well, it could be several people too. I mean, can you add multiple people on a code owners?
Yeah, I believe so. Or I'm not sure if you can, but you can certainly add groups, but that's really getting into more things which are more specific to GitHub itself. Yeah, maybe this isn't the way to go with it.
Looks like you can add groups, specific individuals. Okay, so then this would be a whole going through each file and seeing who did the initial commit and making them the co-owner. Something like that.
Well, so, yeah, I mean these are the questions that we'd have to answer.
Right. So there's been many people work on this one.
Mm. So this would have the consequence, the code owner would not then appear inside the state file, but it would be like inside of GitHub and outside of the file.
Outside of the file, yes, but it would still be in the repository itself. It would be a text file.
Yeah. Oh, somewhere else. Okay.
We got to get the big bear on this. He was he was doing this for a while, and he's kind of dropped out. I haven't heard from him in a while,
Mm.
but he helped out a lot on this project.
Mm. Still, I would bring the nuclear option back into discussion, because at some point in time, if there is no maintainer, then there is greater risk than glory.
Yeah,
Oh,
but there's still this issue of what Shane mentioned earlier, that even if you can't install software,
Right.
you still need to be able to remove
Uninstall.
it.
Now I just realized after I said that you cannot remove the state, because that would render the uninstall.
Then you do nothing, yes.
Interesting. You cannot go back.
Well, it would mean that if you had installed something with salt, then you wouldn't be able to uninstall it.
So we're sorry. But the uninstall should be. But do you need the URL for the uninstall? So also the 404s should.
No, the uninstall is usually a local file.
Right. In
And
fact,
sometimes it's not. If it's an MSI, you can uninstall with the same file, like this one. So this one would need to be a correct URL. But let's see.
well, being the MSI expert, you should put it differently. You only need the product code to uninstall, but that's
Well, there are instances of that in here too,
okay.
where they've used trying to find one.
Yeah.
Just trying to go
Yeah,
through
but
random.
it's only
Right here.
related, right? This I deem the most appropriate way to uninstall an MSI, because Windows knows how to do that even if you throw away the MSI. So it's very lightweight. You do not have to keep anything. You just issue you express your desire to uninstall this thing, and Windows knows how to do it. I think there's nothing similar exists in Unix, but then maybe we could, yeah, well, this is, but not if it's just an exe installer, that it could be still an MSI.
So
Okay.
here's how salts works.
Yes.
So we do provide an uninstaller.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
So
And then, so here's a good example to reference. So we had a CVE and we didn't want people installing those. So all of the ones that are affected by the CVE
right.
are created like this, and they only have an uninstaller defined for them.
Okay.
Whereas the rest of them, the more current ones, have the full setup, installer and uninstaller.
I see. Yes, that's Ginger example of how you
would do it. Yeah.
Well, this could be used as a template for anybody who needs to reflect the uninstall, who needs to support the uninstall. And if you forget to mention one version, then uninstall would fail. That's also.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have been able to uninstall it or install it to begin with.
Why don't you say for star, just allow all uninstalls? That would also
Well,
be possible.
That would be part of it. We'd have had to design it that way. This is like iteration 2, and it actually needs a third. There's actually a new repo coming out. Microsoft is curating a package manager. I can't remember what it's called.
Is it called WinGet?
Yes, that's it. And I'm thinking maybe we ought to just embrace that. It's kind of like chocolatey, but it's Microsoft maintained, and
Yeah.
I think it'd be pretty easy to write an execution and a state module for it. They're not fully feature rich, but by next summer they will be, according to their roadmap. They'll be able to do everything we can do with package man with this, and it'll be maintained by Microsoft. It's an open source project. We should probably continue supporting this, but maybe encourage people to start using that.
WinGet.
I think that's what it's called.
I think that's part of the NuGet. I think I read an article about WinGet, NuGet, and their It's quite recent. Interesting. WinGet install. This looks very much like APT. Yeah.
Yep. And that's kind of the whole point.
Interesting. See who has been looking. Interesting.
So like so far it's got install, but it doesn't have
Remove.
or uninstall, whatever they decide to call it. But
It's
but
not
there was
feature complete.
No, it's not feature complete yet.
Okay.
But they had I saw a roadmap somewhere. It was in here where they were talking about where they planned on.
So coming back to the 404, there are really many URLs which are not pointing anywhere.
Yeah. Oh, they're even going to add group policy support. Yeah. Multiple languages, multiple architectures. But this stuff's supposed to come out this month. And you'll be able to remove stuff that's in add remove programs that wasn't installed. So this would be a good candidate for a module, state module and an execution module.
I agree.
I think. And it'd be pretty easy, I think.
May 2021 for the point the
.1
1.0. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this stuff, once we get to this right here, that's everything we need for basic support. And then you could just add additional support for things as they came out if we needed it. Cool.
Right.
Well, I'll let you finish, Marcus. Quit cutting you off. Sorry.
No. I wasn't. Maybe just what do you want to document, or you are writing the
Right.
notes.
Okay. So this is what we've talked about. This is what we've talked about, and then what do we want to do? What are our action items we want to do? This is from last month. We
Really?
did.
No, this is multiprocessing false is new.
Okay, so. Oh no, yeah, I added that one for this. That was added this meeting.
So let's profile some things. Yeah, David, as you are somebody who is, well, maybe multiprocessing faults helps a lot also for profiling, which is another reason. But can we compare, or can you compare? Because somehow I would have to set up Unix boxes before for that. Can we compare a profile from Unix with one of Windows?
I can try.
You can, but they follow different code paths.
They follow different code paths. So you
There's a
already
lot of-
did.
There's a lot of if Windows do this, do it this way. If it's Linux, do it this way.
Yeah, perfect.
install.
I mean, it's just to see what is the difference. If you can just send us or send me Linux versus Windows of test.version, then see how does it behave on Linux. Do we see an apparent difference? So if you say the loader is a problem on Windows, then I assume I do not even see in the Windows profile the loader is everywhere. Then it shouldn't be on Linux. And you can create a profile file. I forgot how it was ending from Linux. I won't be able to set up a Linux machine this month. But
Are you saying to use the profile you were using? I can't remember what it's called.
Yappy, or not? No, was it Yappy? No,
Was it
it
Yappy?
wasn't. It wasn't Yappy. It was. It should be here in the notes.
That was in this notes here. SnakeViz.
Snake. Yeah, it should run. It should run also on Unix.
Okay. And we did do this. This was how I found where this stuff is.
Oh, you did good.
Daffy did this. David did this.
Yeah, I haven't done the next ones. That requires more work.
Okay. We didn't do this. I did do this. And I didn't do the SEP. So this is done. This is done. This is done. Do you want to keep these, or are we?
Yeah,
what
I'm
should we-
still working on that.
Okay. And for the next release, we did put some PRs to fix the Unicode. Were you
Yeah.
able to verify that fixed it? The
No, I leave it.
6501.
I leave it working. I think you and Shane closed even my issues. That's fine. I won't have. I won't. I lost my interest in Unicode issues, and
Okay.
I have much more troublesome pressing. So would be nice if it works. And doesn't matter.
Well, I'm hoping we didn't break anything, honestly, by doing the 6501 stuff.
It works. 5501 works. What was his name? He wants to switch back and forth. This sounds crazy to me, but I just see what happens when Salt switches back and forth code pages. But 65001 is fine. It still doesn't work, by the way. So and on my code page, I'm still getting non-displayed characters, but it's not creating any Unicode error anymore. So that's fine. That's an improvement.
Okay. Well, I'm just hoping it doesn't break other issues, like cause us more issues.
Yeah, I see. I haven't noted.
Okay. All right, I will submit this.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I did build packages for 3002 last night, so that should be getting released pretty quick. I don't remember what the date is. Probably in the next 2 weeks.
I see.
So I build Windows and Mac, and then they build all the Linux, and then it all goes through a bunch of testing, and then takes a couple weeks, and then we release. So 3002 should be coming out. with those Unicode fixes, and
Yep.
hopefully we don't get a whole flood of Windows issues coming in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
Okay. Well, if that's everything, then that's me done.
Okay.
And then thank you, Shane.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Bye then.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Yeah. See you guys
Bye-bye.
later.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.